Let there be lights. Oh god. All right. Welcome back on our Python journey. Today's day 10. And in today's video, we're going to learn about functions. And first of all, before we jump into today's video, I would like to congratulate everybody who has been following this series so far. Thanks for coming this far. Yeah. Thanks for coming this far. We are right now on day 10 and 90 more days to go. And I believe by that time we would have enough, armor on our sleeve to conquer the world with Python. All right, that's really genius. Anyways, so today I'm wearing a cap. Yeah. And I don't know why I took this cap. I just felt like wearing it today. And I just yeah. Okay. All right, enough of that. So today we're going to talk about functions. So what are functions? Functions are reusable blocks of code that allows us to, write less code basically. So they provide better modularity to make our application much more elegant. Yeah, that's how I'll put it. So this is how you would create a function. So to create a function, you put the def keyword here, and then followed by the name of your function. So it can be any name, just call your function anything, but I'll just put our first function like this. Sorry, our first function like this, then followed by a parenthesis. Now this parenthesis comes in handy, and I'll explain why it is there, but it has to be there no matter what. Then you put a colon afterwards, after the parenthesis. Then now when you press enter, depending on the code editor you're using, your code will be automatically indented, right? Which is this space that we have in front of this line here. All right, so after the indentation, then this will open the room for you to write the the logic for your code. So let's say you want to print names, right? So you just to print hello with the name, let's say hello Dick, for instance, right? And then when you call this function, yeah, let me just oh Christ, I've messed it up. Anyways, let's run this code and see. First of all, now you can see nothing is happening, right? Wait for it. So we just created the function, but we've not used it. So to use it, we type the name of the function, so our first function, followed by this parenthesis sign here. Now the writing our function this way means we are calling it. So calling a function, which is what I wanted to say later, but I just said it before doing it, and I'm not happy about it. Anyways, so we call our function to let it know that, okay, it's time for you to do something for us. So when we run this code here, you can see hello Jake is printed in the terminal. Now we said our function provide us with reusability, so we can reuse it again. So let's say we print, so we call this function as many times as we want. So 4 times when we print, or when we run this code, now you can see hello Jake is printed in the terminal 4 times. Previously we're writing code in a very procedural way, which is like line by line. So to print this hello Jake, we would have written this code many times, like print hello Jake in, on different lines, which is pain when the print word here is not just hello Jake, but hello kindly subscribe kindly subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah. All right. You can see, hello Jake, kindly subscribe. Hello Jake. We would have written this many times if we were just to write it outside, right? So I'll just remove these 3 lines here and just run it again. Now it is printed just once with the 2 print statements in the body of our code. So our function in the body of our function, sorry. So our function has, this part here, and then the inside where we put the logic. Now, so we know how to create function and we know how to call the function. These parentheses here are used to accept placeholders, and these placeholders are done as parameters. Now, if you put a value here like name here, and parameters can, you can have many parameters as you like. You can just separate them by comma, but let's take a look at the first, a single parameter, for instance. Now what I'll do here is I'll say, instead of printing hello Jake, I'll just say print hello and then the name, and format this string. Sorry, just put the F in front here. Now this string will be formatted for us. So now let's call, I've removed that other line of code. Okay, let me just leave it there. Let's run this code again. Now when we run our code, we can see that we have an error, and this error says it is a type error, right? And then it says our first function, which is our function that we defined here, is missing one positional argument, which is name. Now, after providing our function with a placeholder, which is technically known as parameters, we need to pass in the actual value of this placeholder. So in this case, argument. So I'll just put Jake here, right? When we run this code, now you can see hello Jake is printed in the terminal, and our value here. So let's see if we can reuse this block of code again. Now the beauty part of this function, or this programming constructs, which is function that we are talking about today, is that we can pass in different types of arguments, provided that we've actually set the function to accept parameters, to accept arguments by creating it with the parameter. So this is how you do it. You just put I'll just put more here, and then run it with other. Let me run it again, and here I'll just put my key, yeah, like this, and then run our code. Yeah, let me just comment this one out. I'll explain what comment is in a bit. Just hold on. Let's run this code again. Now you can see we have hello Mo, hello Jake, and hello Mikey in the terminal. With the print keyword, we would have written Mo, Jake, separately, and that is the beauty of function. All right, so yeah, so let's take a look at passing more arguments. I'll just put age here, right? So now our function expects 2 arguments when we call it, because we said, take age as well as the name. So when calling this function, I'll pass in here is okay. Let me just put age here like this and passing age here. Okay, so when we run this function, we'll have an error because we've not passed the age here. Just put 23. We just put 40, and we can just put 24. right? And run this code again. Now you can see hello Jake, age 23, and then for every other call that we made for this function here. So creating a function is known as declaring the function, and then using the function is known as calling the function. So I would like to talk about arguments first of all. We have different types of arguments in Python. We have optional arguments. We have positional arguments. We have named arguments and stuff like that. So let me just touch on a few of them, and I'll leave a link in the description below for you to take a look at. So I'll put in the optional argument. Let's say age and let's say height, for instance. Now we want them to put their height, but then in the case where they don't put their height, we can give them a height of, let's say, 50 cm, right? Okay, 50 cm is too short. Let me just put 170 cm. Okay, it doesn't matter at this point. Now if we put the height here like this and set this height to the height like this, even when they don't pass in their height, this will automatically set the height for them and will not have any error. So all of them have that default 170 centimeter height in set to them, their height automatically. But in the case where somebody provides it like this, so 50 cm, Christ, 50 cm like this. Okay, 150 cm. You can see this has changed, but those who forgot to provide their height, a default height is set for them automatically. Now this optional parameter is always at the end, right? You cannot have it somewhere here in your parameters list like this. This will give you an error. So you always have to put your optional ones at the end. You can see this age here is underlined with this red line here. So it's basically telling you age is not supposed to exist because we have an optional parameter here, which is basically height, and then the value is set to 70 cm. So it is supposed to be at the end, otherwise remove age. Okay, so that's it for functions and their structure. We've taken a look at arguments and we saw parameters as well. So now we have two types of functions, right? So we have anonymous function and this type of function that we created here. So anonymous function are basically one line of function. So I just commented out this code. Before I continue, let me just explain what comment and what comments and doctrings are. So comments are basically actually comments are used to tell this the Python code, the Python interpreter that this part of this code is not supposed to run. Don't see it as a Python code. This is just a simple test. And in most cases, you would use comment to indicate what a particular line of code is doing. So you can just put in here comments. So say this this line prints name and age like this with height. Forget about that. So when we run our code again, let me just run one of these instances here. So now you can see nothing else is printed, and basically all of these ones have been suppressed. So you can use it to debug your code to see where a mistake is coming from. You can just comment out line by line to that also comes in handy when you know how to use comment. You will use them when you need to use them. So you can use comment to indicate what a line of code is doing. You can use a comment to debug, which is basically comment out some part of your code to allow other ones to run to see where an issue is coming from. And the benefit of commenting your code to say what a particular line of code is doing is basically for you to indicate to those who are collaborating with you in a particular code base to have it easy to understand what your code is doing basically. So you just to indicate to them that, okay, see, this is what this code is doing. This is what this particular line of code that I've written is doing. All right, aside comments, functions also have something called docstrings, which are like bigger form of comment, right? So normally, if you want to write multiple lines of comment, you would go on another line, put this hash sign again, and then start writing, which is, I mean, it depends on how many comments you want to write, but if each line is a separate instruction or explanation, then this is fine. But if you want to write like a whole paragraph of comment, there is a way to do that. So it's to put this, the quotation mark 3 times, right? So like this, and then depending on the code editor you're using, it will automatically put in this auto-complete ones for you. So basically it's 6 quotation mark 6, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom. So here you can just write anything. So you can say this function prints greetings like this. I'll just put it here. I don't know why anytime I'm recording, I'm unable to print with to type without looking at my keyboard. Yeah, that's right. So this is known as docstring in Python. So docstring are basically like comments, but then gives us more flexibility to explain what the function is doing. And you usually write your docstring at the beginning of your function before your logic, right? So here we have this param here, param here, which is basically the parameter that this function takes. You can edit this, you can remove it, but I'll just leave it there. The code editor automatically gave me this. I'm really grateful for that code editor. Anyways, so the return type, we will take a look at what return is later, but let's see how we can use this docstring. So let's say we want to understand what this function does. Jake, our collaborator or co-worker wrote this function with this docstring, and we don't know what this function does. So what I'll do is, so this is how you use the docstring. So you just say print, let me type here, print now help, and then pass in the name of your function. So you pass in the name of your function. So help is a function that takes argument, which is the function, the manual function we created. So I'll just put in is it the manual, the custom function we created. So our function here, not called the function, just the function's name. When you run this code now, you can see whatever we put in our docstring here is printed, followed by the name of our function, and yeah. So the return type is none. That's why you're seeing this none here, because this function is not returning anything. And we'll take a look at what return is. So that's it for docstrings and, comments. So docstrings are really helpful when you need to use them. So you don't really have to use them all the time, but yeah, it's a good thing to use when you're working with a lot of people. Now, the return keyword. So right now we are asking our function to, let me just remove this. Okay, I will not remove it. I'll just scroll down. So we are directly printing out stuff from our function, which is not really, following the definition of a function. A function is supposed to, be concise, right? Just output something for us and not really interfere with the user very much, because if we are to reuse this function elsewhere, it will basically print out stuff for us just like that when we call it. So we want our function to, return something. I don't know if that made any sense, but let me show you what the return keyword does. So right now, if we call our function, because we are printing stuff here, I think the non keyword will also be printed later. Let me just, okay, instead of doing this, I'll just shift this towards the bottom and come here, right? And just say, copy this line of code here, and then print it. Print this function call. Remove that and run this code here. Docstring is still being printed. I do not know why. Oh, it's still docstring. Christ, that I copied. Sorry, my bad. All right, so our function is called again. Now you can see just this is printed, which is really nice. It's already good, but then our function needs to return something. So to do that, if we had removed this print statement here and set this string here to, let's say a variable called templates. Let me just call this templates like this, and set to the string that it will return. When we call this function, you see nothing is printed in the terminal. In reality, none is being returned, but I don't know why it's not showing. Maybe there's a way we could actually check that. Okay, let's say we print this function. Let me call it like this. Let's print the function itself, the function call. Print the function call. Now you can see none is printed in the terminal, which means that this function is not returning anything. Even with the print statement here, at the end, this none will be printed. You see, you can see none is there. So to avoid returning none, we have to return something from our function. It's either we return the string itself without the print, or we just return the templates variable that we created. So I'll just put return like this. I don't know why, what's wrong with me? Return and then templates, right? So when we run this code now, you can see the none is gone, and then we have our return function, our function returning the templates here. So you can also just, if you call it like this without the print, the print there, if we run this function, you can see nothing is printed. So the function has been called, the value is there, but for us to see it, we basically need to, run it again, right? We basically need to run this function inside the print function itself. And I think you can also say results, just put results here like this, and then set it to the function call and just print the results like this. Results like this. Now you can see, so what happened here is that this function was called, and then the return keyword just took this template and pushed the value of the template into this result here, which in turn stored that template, and then when we printed it, we had this value in the terminal here. Let me run it again. That's it. Hello Jake, age 23, height is 150 cm. If we change this to 180, the same thing will happen. So, which is really nice. So the return keyword just takes whatever value we are returning from the function, and then bam, store it inside something. And when we need it, if we want to use this result elsewhere, we can just use it in a different part of our code or our program, which is really nice. All right, so let's see the next topic we have here. Oh, okay, so which is this one is asking us to build a factorial calculator. All right, so we are done with all the topics. So this one here is an exercise. I'll leave the exercise for you guys to do. Just so what I did here is I created a factorial. I just took the factorial program that we wrote previously. Let me comment this one out and just comment this entire thing out here as well. So this is the function here. So this function returns the factorial of a number, but in this case what I did is I asked the user to input a number. Now, if the number is superior to 2, then we'll find superior or equal to 2. We'll find the factorial of that particular number. Now, if the number is less or equal to 1, so in the case negative number 0 or 1, then you should just print the factorial of this n here, which is 5, right? Now, the good thing here is that I've already written out this logic, but I want you guys to find a way to write all of this logic in a functional way. So to write functions that would basically execute this part without finding the factorial again separately in each if statement here. So just try it out and see if you're able to solve it. I'll leave a link in the description below for the GitHub repo with the answer that to this problem here, so that you can look at it and solve it yourself too. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please try this challenge before taking a look at the results in the GitHub repo. All right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.